Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of Comics and Kaijus. I am your boy, Matthew Quarter J. Sterling. Joining me today is Cameron Miller and Austin Albin. How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic, man. Great night so far. Ready to get into this really cool movie that we're going to talk about?
Absolutely, man. I feel like it was a great choice this time. Austin, how you doing, bro?
Doing good. I'm happy to be back at full strength with the boys. We got everyone
Absolutely.
for the episode, which I'm happy about. This is the boys here. It's going to be a boys' night. Got a banger episode here. Great choice from both of you. Both of you picked absolute great ones, and I'm not even going to remotely try to come in here with any sort of credit being taken here because I just got handed a fucking list and got told this is it, and all I could go was go, hot damn, we got some. And sure as shit, we did. Kudos.
Well, you're welcome, man. I was definitely blown away by the movie selection and the comic selection for this one. We tackled Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, 1964. Austin, take it away, man.
Yeah, we tackled probably one of the more influential Godzilla films in the earlier Showa eras. Ghidorah is Godzilla's big baddie. If you want to talk about, who is the Joker to Godzilla's Batman, this is it. Ghidorah is the man. Cameron, give me a little more details about what makes Ghidorah this big baddie. Why is he so bad, man?
Well, they really build him up as this planet destroyer. He wipes out civilizations throughout the galaxy. In this, you find out that there was actually an advanced civilization on Venus, and Ghidorah came by and said, "Fuck this planet," and killed everybody. And those who survived fled to Earth, and they interbred with the humans. So he basically flies around the galaxy, destroying civilizations with no real reason. It's just out of pure evil. So we're not really supposed to feel any remorse or basically any remorse for this character. He's basically pure evil.
I gotta say that's probably what makes him stand out far beyond any of the other Godzilla antagonists that we come into later in the kaiju films. That honestly just makes him really stand a kind of head and shoulders above everybody else. And if I gotta throw my hat in there with thinking of who else would have been Godzilla's biggest adversary, I mean, I would probably have to be Mechagodzilla at that point. The only other person that's ever been able to stand toe to toe with him is Mechagodzilla, but that's because it's obviously a mirror image. But Ghidorah was just so original and so fresh that it really brought a fresh light into this film. And I gotta say that we see a lot of returning faces, not only in the human actors, but also in our kaijus. We have not seen Rodan or Mothra in a long time. Haven't heard from them.
No, Rodan is back again. First time in the Godzilla universe and first time returning since his original debut in his film, Rodan. The suit, not looking too hot. But it's not the worst design I've seen. The updated Rodan it's made to be a little bit lighter for the actor to move around in because you're fighting another monster. As of in the first film, he wasn't doing that. He was just basically getting shot at. So they didn't really need a whole lot of articulation in the suit.
We actually discussed, you and me, actually, when we were watching, that this Rodan is one that we are actually going to be seeing in at least 1 to 2 other Godzilla films, as this suit is going to be a recycled one for a little while.
Yes, we're going to see this one in the next Godzilla film, Invasion of the Astro Monster, and then we will also see him in Destroy All Monsters. We see him in like cameo appearances and I think a couple other films, but it's nothing really of mention. So Invasion of the Astro Monster and the Destroy All Monsters, those are the 2 other times we'll see the suit. And by Destroy All Monsters, it does not look too good.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to the boy Brody Kane joining us on this episode, bro. Thanks
Hell
for
yeah.
joining us, man.
Stopping by, Brody. Welcome to it, my man. Glad to have you
Favorite
around.
Aussie. Let's go.
I also gotta say, we get to see Mothra back at it. I mean, granted, this is a larva to Mothra that we never get to see fully be Mothra again. And I'm pretty sure we discussed this in an episode later that this is one of the only other times we get to see Mothra in the earlier show of films, along with Godzilla helping him. But we don't get to see her in her full glory.
No, we don't, which is kind of disappointing. So it's explained because if you remember from Mothra versus Godzilla, there were 2 Mothra larvae at the end of the film. The twin fairies, or the Shobijin, they explain that
Mothra calling Cameron out here. All about that Mothra porn.
I'm never gonna win. I'm never gonna win.
Never gonna win,
No.
bro.
I'm never gonna win. It's
over.
gonna be Mothra porn until the very end of this podcast.
My boy is drowning in the mussy. Bless.
Okay.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Bless.
Anyways. Yes. So the twin fairies, they explain that one of the Mothra larvae passed away. They don't explain how. They just say he did. So it's a little disappointing. Originally in the script, there was going to be a Mothra larva adult, or a Mothra adult, my bad, and a Mothra larva. But the special effects crew agreed that it'd be too much of a hassle to deal with Rodan flying in the air and all the wires that are used to control Ghidorah, which I believe are like 26 piano wires to control Ghidorah's head and tail. So it'd be a pain in the ass to deal with.
It definitely was a lot to see when Ghidorah first showed up on film. Is my goodness at the amount of just different moving parts that this suit has. It's actually insane that there was never a moment where it was like Godzilla, where he's kind of just, you can tell where the person is in the suit. You can see the hands moving, the head and the feet and the body motion and the language. But Ghidorah, it was never a moment of just sitting fucking still. It was a constant, wiggle, a constant twitch, it's just those wires going to work on top.
He's always moving, which it looks a bit silly, but I find the waving of the heads pretty cool. It gives Ghidorah his own personality. He's kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I guess hyper. I guess he
kind of more animalistic,
very
more
animalistic,
like
sadistic.
Yeah.
Moving around a lot. He's always constantly shooting his gravity beams.
It's never out of direction, unless he's specifically going after Godzilla. But he's whipping those things everywhere.
Oh,
yeah, trying to cause as much mayhem. Yeah, trying to cause as much destruction and mayhem as physically possible.
Exactly.
Which is why he's here. So I want to talk about the suit itself.
The Ghidorah suit, correct?
Yes, the Ghidorah suit.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, a lot of people will know the design of Ghidorah, even though they've never actually seen a Godzilla movie.
Very iconic, very hard to mistake.
Very iconic design. Basically, it's a giant dragon that has 3 heads and 2 tails. It's no arms either. It's a very weird looking design, but it works. It just works. Originally, the suit was in a lot of promotional and
TJ calling Cameron out. Double chin, Gaijin.
Let's go.
Jan Miller saying good stuff, guys. Thank you, Jan.
Welcome, boys. Welcome.
Yes. So the Ghidorah suit was originally supposed to be, and it had a blue body, blue neck, and then it had these wings that would go from blue to white to red, which is very different than
I can't even imagine thinking of Ghidorah as any color than just his gold. Thinking of him in those colors just seems so wild.
Because it's such an iconic look that everybody knows in popular media. But originally there was that design, but there's a lot of different theories on why they changed it. Some reasons were it didn't really look that great. Others were that it kind of blended in with the background, the matte painting backgrounds in the sky, which that's probably the reason. And then the special
TJ with a message.
Oh, what we
You
got?
guys just got Jan's approval. That's a major milestone for a Louder podcast. She's an avid listener to our content. Well, thank you, Jan. That means a lot to us.
Hey, absolutely. We're here to break barriers, and we're here to make a splash, and that's just a big milestone for us to say moving forward. So let's get
Oh,
it.
definitely. Oh, Brody, why you gotta do that to me, bro? Matt's gonna be looking like a Jeffrey Dahmer crime scene, bro. I'm sorry, man. My bed, it's just
Matt,
it's just
make your
messed
bed.
now, right?
You fucking
Hey,
nasty.
fucking bed.
You fucking nasty.
Look, man, it was-
animal.
You
I'm
nasty.
sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
Hey, I had time to wash my sheets and make my bed.
Well, you know, I just got off work. All right.
No excuse.
Jan saying, loving that we're doing our research. Well, thank you. We
Always.
take pride in it. We take
We
pride.
want to make sure that everyone is educated on everything we talk about, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that we know what we're talking about. We're not here just spewing bullshit.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Kim, give me a little more detail here on Ghidorah about these color schemes. Would you think that this would probably be the reason they were going so crazy with this was because this was the 60s, that this could have just been a little more of them going outside the box of that normal color scheme that they went with prior because of how most of the Godzilla films are very monotone in the color
Yeah.
schemes?
So basically, the original, what EJ Tsuburaya favored originally was the suit to be a crimson color, which also stands out, which wouldn't be a bad look.
Crimson Ghidorah sounds kind of badass, I'm not going to lie.
But the effects team decided to go with gold because they've decided that that would look best on screen.
I think gold also looks better for his name, for King Ghidorah. King
Yes.
being very regal and very royal, having that gold scaling just really puts him a bit ahead and shoulders up there.
Ghidorah is OP in King of the Monsters.
Absolutely.
Yes, he is. He's very OP in that.
Especially with the instant head regeneration. Yeah, that's a bit. That's a bit.
I mean, you got three heads, and you can just pop one back up.
Oh, yeah. Just no problem, bro. It ain't
Yeah,
nothing but a thing.
this suit was a pain in the ass to deal with.
It looks like
being yeah. So 10 people were required to operate this fucking monstrosity. And they operated him using the piano wire to move the heads, the tail, and the wings. But the problem was when you're constantly moving that shit around, it gets tangled a lot. So imagine all the retakes that they had to do because it would always get tangled within the other heads or the scales. And Haruo Nakajima, the guy who played in the Godzilla suit, he basically described the fight scenes as like pointless, and they were basically a solo shoot for him because the other actor in the Ghidorah suit couldn't really do anything. He had no real way of seeing, and it's very hard to move such a bulky suit like that when other people are controlling you from above. So there were a lot of retakes.
One thing that you can kind of tell in this film that Godzilla is way more animated, and with that information coming right here, that honestly explains why he's very animated in this film. Like he moves a lot. His mouth is moving a lot. His body is very active. His tail is moving a lot. He's very lively in his motions instead of, usually we get a very slow moving and lumbering Godzilla to kind of give that sense of scale with the, with the films and the way the directing goes in the filmography and in the cinematography. I mean, my apologies, but
yeah,
no, that explains a lot.
Yeah. So basically there was Mothra vs. Godzilla came out earlier this same year in April. I like to describe there's 3 different eras of the Showa Godzilla. There's the evil version, then there's the I'm going to call it the transition phase, and then you have the good savior of the earth version. And this is the beginning of his transition into becoming a savior of earth, a good guy, and starting to be directed more towards children. And his body language shows certain scenes show it's very cartoonish in some scenes, like Godzilla getting shot in the ass and the dick with Ghidorah's gravity beams. The scene where Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan, they all talk back and forth, which is still very odd to watch. And then you also have the scene where Mothra and Rodan, they laugh at each other after they both get hit by Mothra's silk attack. So
another thing I noticed in the fight scenes, especially with the era of him being in the more heroic things, in the earlier films, he fought very animalistic, very dirty, did whatever he could to win. But in this film, he does a lot of. We actually just had this discussion about the difference between the Showa and the Heisei era and the way the fighting styles go. The Showa era was very very professional wrestling.
I prefer it, very, very wrestling sumo-esque, and then you have your Heisei era, which is, I call it the beam attack era.
Yeah, Godzilla straight up body slammed fucking Rodan when he got his hands on him. I mean, straight up suplexed him, and it looked like a wrestling.
Rodan also did the same to him earlier.
Yeah.
Rodan basically flies at Godzilla at full speed. Hits him, and Godzilla he fucking does a flip in the air and falls on his ass.
It's interesting. And you're bringing up the whole transitioning of him going into like not even like anti-hero, because that's more the Heisei era. He's more of this anti-hero that's still,
a force of nature in that
exactly.
One. Yeah.
And then here you can definitely see that transition of becoming more of this figure for Japan to market towards children and younger adults. And it shows from here on out, you'll notice in the films we do here in the future, you're going to see that transition be more and more predominant. And honestly, by the time you get to Megalon, it's basically full-blown kid show.
Yeah, and you'll get to Son of Godzilla, and then you get to fucking Godzilla's Revenge, which I really don't want to talk about that.
No, we're gonna get there, dude. You're forgetting Terror of the Deep, my guy.
Listen,
Godzilla fights a giant lobster. It exists.
At least that is a bit more entertaining than Godzilla's Revenge.
I mean, maybe.
No. When we get to that film, you're gonna be like, yeah, no.
Look, I'm just here for the ride on this Godzilla / kaiju hype train that you guys are building up. But Godzilla versus a fucking lobster, that sounds so fucking cool.
It's hype as fuck. It's hype as fuck.
All right, look. Everybody here knows that like kaiju's not my strong suit. It's the comic part that I like absolutely dominate, dude. But just seeing or not really seeing, but like hearing the way you guys are talking about like these future movies that we're gonna see down the road, bro. It has me so fucking hyped to just dive deep with you boys on this, dude.
Hey man, that's what we're here for, and that's what we're doing. We want these deep dives. That's why we literally have the kaiju genie himself over here that has all this information waiting in the backlines for us. And we want this information for everyone to have. So we're not only educating, but we're also here to entertain it.
Absolutely.
But this, all these movies we got planned, it means we're gonna have to have a new schedule about all this.
Speaking of new schedule, me and TJ worked very hard designing a new schedule. Comics and Kaiju will be coming out every single Sunday.
Ooh, that sounds great.
It's going to be an episodic weekly episode, my dude. It's going to be everything.
Speaking of, I'm going to give you a little teaser on what we will be covering next week. On the 24th, we are covering Gamera. I hope I'm saying that right. The Giant Monster, 1965, and Hellboy, Volume 1, Seed of Destruction. I love my boy Hellboy.
I'm so fucking pumped to do Hellboy.
I know it's going to be so great.
Okay, hold on.
Another origin.
I'm pausing this statement before it goes any further because this has to be established.
What's this? Next week. Thank you, Brody.
Hellboy. Is the new movie okay? Is that taboo?
This is
we will get into that take next week.
We will.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I'm not a Ron Perlman purist.
It's good if you don't compare it to Ron Perlman.
That's all I need to know. I know where we stand, and we can move forward to that conversation for next week.
Absolutely. Also, Brody calling me out for the next week. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, next week, bro.
Next week, bro. We'll be covering it. Promise. This will be a running joke now. Mothra porn in next week. Next week, Mothra porn.
TJ, we need a shirt next week. Next week, bro.
Hopefully our merch comes in next week.
Thank you, Brody. Thank you for the defense on the new Hellboy. Like I said, next week that will be an entire argument on its own, an entire discussion on its own. But as for right now, I personally enjoy it.
I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't see it. I just didn't have any interest in seeing it.
Double.
So what I'm hearing is Austin.
Watch party?
Yeah, are we having another watch party? Because
double watch party.
I mean,
it's not like I pre-ordered the movie on YouTube when it came out or anything.
Did you really?
What?
I think I have a digital copy of it.
No, I actually I pre-ordered the film when it came out on YouTube. I went and saw it in theaters, and then I bought the film digitally. I loved it. I liked it. It was fun. It was a fun film, but
it was definitely enjoyable. A lot more comedic.
Absolutely.
But yes, let's continue.
Moving back onto here to Ghidorah and going more deeper into this film and kind of explaining a bit more about this. We got into the meat of Ghidorah, and we've talked a little bit about Mothra returning, but we haven't talked about the main man himself, Godzilla, returning here in this film. I'm gonna keep it 100. He's looking a bit scruffed. I ain't gonna lie. He's looking a bit scruffed.
So basically, it's the same suit from Mothra vs. Godzilla. The body's the same, but the head got too damaged during filming of Mothra vs. Godzilla that they had to replace it. It's kind of a really bad repair job. Not the best looking, especially the puppet scenes where it's just his head.
The head is just...
He's looking a bit rough around the edges.
He's looking bad. I mean, people, I'm not saying don't watch this film, but I am definitely telling you, don't go into it with, expecting Godzilla to look immaculate here, because he's looking a bit worse for wear.
Yeah, Haruo Nakajima still plays the character with such fucking style, and I love it. He does such a phenomenal job. He loves doing this role, and you can tell by his body movements. He loves being in this role. He's very energetic about it. So, yeah. The Godzilla suit, not looking too hot. They do replace it in the next film with a much better looking suit, in my opinion.
Which one's the next one chronologically after this one?
Invasion of the Astro Monster.
Oh, yeah, okay, so it is Invasion. Yeah, that's when they have the whole, dance thing. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm trying to remember the suit in my head, and that's what I think of immediately when I think of Astro Monster. It's like he does a little dancey dance.
He does a little dancey dance.
He does his little dancey dance. Little Godzilla dancey dance. But I gotta say that regardless of the suits, we still have some fairly solid looking practical special effects once again in this film.
Yeah. So I like to describe this as like prime, like Showa Godzilla. Like this is where the Royal Monster Rumble starts, right here, where you have a bunch of monsters and they're fucking duking it out, and it's awesome. It's so entertaining. Yes, the effects are not the best, but there's some parts where the effects are pretty decent. A lot of the destruction scenes look very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very pleasing to the eye, but it's such good fun. This is another film I would recommend getting a bunch of your boys together, sitting down and watching this, cracking jokes, drink a beer, have a fucking grand time.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is definitely golden age Showa Godzilla for sure, and I would definitely say that Godzilla versus King Kong set the precedence for the Godzilla fights that came along afterwards. You kind of got a taste for it, but then like you said, the Royal Rumble of Kaijus is coming, and this is only the precipice of that. Because we go further down these lines in these Godzilla films, the fights become way more predominant, and it's not as much destruction, it's more kaiju fighting. And it's way more, center stage, instead of it being kind of more like destruction blended in with fighting. It's way more focused on fighting instead, which is
Yeah.
not a bad.
So I believe Invasion of the Astro Monster, which we will get to next week, you do see a lot of destruction in it. You see a lot of buildings getting destroyed when the monsters are under mind control. But I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I don't want to go off track. But you do see a lot of destruction. I think the last time you see a lot of destruction is in Destroy All Monsters. Other than that, it's a lot of just monsters duking it out. Either way, it's great fun. It's awesome.
I agree. I think the film did a good job here of kind of getting that starting point for us. And I'm going to be 100% honest with it. When it comes to this film, I don't really watch this movie in sense of the human subplot that's happening that we're supposed to be paying attention to, because in all honesty, it's fine. I feel like I know me and you have personally had this discussion where I feel like the Heisei era subplots had a little bit more, meat and girth to them that I could really latch onto. This, you can really sense that it's more focused on the kaijus. It wants you to focus more on the kaijus, but the subplot is trying to, keep things relevant. But in all honesty, the characters, once again, we're seeing returning actors coming back for roles, not same characters, but same actors. And the story itself is just a little bit lacking and honestly kind of forgettable. The human action is kind of funny in a sense. It's not trying to be, but it is comical until we get back to the kaijus and seeing more front center stage.
Yeah, so one of the big pluses that the Heisei era has
TJ saying most of us rely on girth anyway.
True.
So yeah, big difference between the Heisei era and the Showa era is the Heisei era has a canonical story going on. So it's something that links all together and you want to see the next piece of the story, and it actually affects the story. It's not like, for example, in this movie, there's this assassin subplot between royalties and it doesn't really do anything. It's just there. Now you do have the princess. She, I guess, is under mind control of the Venusians, and she's there to warn the people about Ghidorah coming to planet Earth to destroy all humanity. But it doesn't really affect anything. Sure, a lot of people blow her off as like, crazy person, whatever. But she doesn't affect the plot directly.
I would say that, that's probably one of the things that I would say the Heisei era does really well. And what makes it a little more entertaining than the Showa era, not taking anything away from the Showa era films, as they are the wonder years, the beginning years, the stepping stone years of Godzilla and the Kaiju era in Toho. But the Heisei era perfected its storytelling, making the story more linear and making more of a chronicle of things happening. And this is a little bit more episodic, and it's like these little one and done, bam, bam. The story is over with. We don't see it again. We don't mess with it again. We may see the same kaiju, but it's like their purpose is completely differentiated from what it originally was when we saw them the first time.
Yeah, there's a lot of older Godzilla fans that grew up watching these that they believe that the Showa era is the golden era of Godzilla. And that's all up to personal preference. If you like cheesy effects, if you like to see clearly rubber suits, and you want to see a bunch of monsters like just wrestling, the Showa era is for you. This is what you want to see. I personally don't believe there is a golden era. I think the Heisei era is probably one of the best. But I like to pick movies here and there from different eras and be like, these are the best films.
Just like we said earlier today, I feel like the Heisei era has a lot more bangers to it, and the time. Granted, the time frame of the Showa era is the longest era of Godzilla films, and the Heisei era has a good chunk of films, And it's a little unfair to compare all of these other films to the smaller portion serving size, but the Heisei era was definitely more quality over quantity that came through. But that's, a whole nother story on its own.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to unpack when you're breaking down something as large as the Godzilla franchise. So yeah, basically this I would recommend the show series to younger audiences.
Absolutely.
If you have a young kid that's like 5 years old, pop in Son of Godzilla. I guarantee the kid's gonna fucking love that shit.
That or Megalon. Godzilla
That or Megalon.
Both are just they hook, and they're perfect for kids to start.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good Godzilla films that are in the Showa era that are perfect for kids to get them hooked. I didn't really grow up with the Showa era. I grew up with the Millennium and the Heisei era.
Is it weird that I got hooked by watching the original Gojira?
No, actually, I think
that was what hooked me. I had it on VHS.
So coming from now, did you see the original Japanese or did you?
I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, so which I know that's version. But I really got hooked when I saw Gojira when it finally got released because I watched all the other films, but I was a kid. So I'm watching them all and I'm taking it all in. But when I got older and I watched Gojira for the very first time in like the early 2000s, when we finally got the official Gojira release on DVD.
Yeah.
That's what really, because I was like, so this is what it was meant to be. This was what the film was meant to be and the message it was trying to receive. I love the old ones, but that is just, it's a whole nother tone.
I don't really remember my first Godzilla film. I believe it was one of the Millennium era Godzilla films. I want to say it was Final Wars. Actually, I think it was the 1998 Matthew Broderick version.
That was a lot of people's.
That was a lot of people's first introduction. And I was like, giant monsters? Hell yeah, I'm in for that shit. And I wanted to seek out more of that.
A lot of people watched that movie not knowing anything about Godzilla. So when they saw it, they liked it. But then when they realized that Godzilla was so much more than that, that's what got a lot of people's interest.
Yeah. I do remember seeing the original Godzilla King of the Monsters on television at my grandparents' house. And then after that played Them. Also another really good film.
Very much so.
And I remember watching that and I was like, this is awesome. It's black and white. I should hate this, but this is awesome. And then it's kind of spiraled out of control from that point on.
Yeah, it's been a ride for me with Godzilla. I grew up on a lot, and once I got older, I rewatched the stuff that I watched when I was younger and realized how much more of a different message that I obviously didn't see as a kid. To give you an example of how mindlessly I watched Godzilla, I have a very specific memory. A very specific memory that I'm probably going to have flashbacks about when we finally catch the movie. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. I had just gotten in from church with my family, and I was laying on my bed eating a box, like I physically had the box. I wasn't like going to the kitchen and grabbing that. I brought a box of cosmic brownies in my room, and I was just, dude,
so good.
I'm hogging these things down, watching Godzilla versus Godzilla with no remorse. No remorse. Those things had no mercy on them. And I was in bliss, enjoying a Godzilla film, eating cosmic brownies and enjoying a good movie. And that's all I cared about. And that's what Godzilla is all about.
Yeah, especially the show era of Godzilla. It's such a laid back era of Godzilla.
It is.
You can pop in any Godzilla film and just sit back and enjoy it. Hell, I would even recommend you pop in some fucking Godzilla versus Hedorah, drop some LSD, and you'll have the fucking time of your life, man.
I can't wait to get to that film because holy fuck, that's gonna be a breakdown. Matt, just buckle your fucking seatbelt for that one because that's a ride, and that's gonna be a ride.
Trip of a movie.
Then I can't wait for it, man. This sounds like it's gonna be a blast.
Well, we've been talking a lot here. Me and Cam have been going back and forth about this film. Matt, I gotta ask you. I mean, we're not to our grading point yet, but I gotta ask, like, so far in this, in this film, How were your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it as a casual fan coming in?
I mean, as a casual fan coming into the kaiju kind of hype or fandom that's kind of building up, there was a lot more human drama in this than in the past, because in the previous movies that we reviewed, it's more human politics that gets like reviewed or like represented in it. In this, there was a lot of human drama kind of going back and forth, not just politics, but also just human drama in general. And I thought it was kind of like a weird twist to it. I did like that. As me going into this, I didn't expect there to be so many monsters. I figured it was just Ghidorah versus Godzilla. Like I thought that was it. I didn't expect to see Rodan. I didn't expect to see Mothra. I wish Mothra would have been like full strength, transformation type thing. This isn't even my final form type bullshit, But I did like that it kind of gave us more representation of her larva form and how she could stand toe to toe with some of them, even in her larva form and not even full strength. I did like the fight scenes in this. They were a lot nicer than the King Kong versus Godzilla, just kind of, hey, I'm going to hug you type fighting, or the one good drop kick that was in. I did really enjoy the way Ghidorah looked. I loved the gold scales going on. Just what I really, because I am a casual fan going into it, the thing that I was waiting for the most was the fighting. And like with most, the rampage / fighting happens towards the end of the movie. Everything else is just build up, the human politics stuff getting thrown in and everything. But once it got to the fighting, I was not let down in this. It was so good. Like just the mashup of all the different characters and their different fighting styles and then fighting each other. And then even the translations where they were sitting there talking, like it all made sense. And it was just formatted in a way that didn't take away from the hype of watching them fight, because they went from talking to, okay, we should team up, to fighting Ghidorah. And it was great. Like I really enjoyed this. This is probably my favorite kaiju film that we've reviewed so far. And we've watched King Kong. So just dropping that there, okay?
Ooh, that's a hot take, man.
Very hot take for sure.
Very hot take.
Also, shout out to Jan Miller again, giving us some love. I have to leave now. I got to pick up some headphones. Thanks so much for this episode. Good stuff. Thank you, Jan Miller.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. And this episode will be out soon, so you'll be able to hear every bit of it, all of it in its glory. And with TJ's beautiful editing, our voices will be crisper than ever.
Godly.
Absolutely.
Godly.
Such a great guy. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this movie.
That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying the kaiju ride with us, because I know we've been enjoying the comics you've been throwing our way, and I mean I'm a little bit traversed on both sides, and I know Cam's getting a lot of new exposure to himself, which is a wonderful.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love showing these to new people, and honestly, I gotta admit, bro, like just these last few episodes where we've done video episodes, it's really enjoyable to see Cameron's face just kind of light up as we talk about like some of these fucking like badass scenes in these comics, or just stuff in general about comics, and him being like, you know what, this isn't as lame as I thought it might have been, And I'm sure you guys get the same experience when we do the watch party, and I'm like, bro, this is legit. This is awesome.
Which, actually, I'm going to be really excited to talk about this comic, because I personally thought it was going to be ass, because I'm not a Vision guy at all.
Me and Cam had this conversation earlier, so this is going to be an interesting.
I'm not
segment.
a Vision guy, and
this really is.
But hey, I'll always say this, and it's something I stand true with. There is one thing in this world that is the most entertaining thing, is listening to someone or watching someone talk about something they love. Because there's passion that can't be matched.
Absolutely.
So I will also say this film, granted not being some of the better Showa films, is a good one. It proved beneficial in the box office. It made its money back. I know we didn't get an exact budget on that, which, it happened. These budgets are mixed. But Cam, what did you find for me? Anything on budget?
Nothing on budget. I looked around a lot. I couldn't find anything. And I don't really trust Wikipedia.
We do try to steer clear of them.
Yeah. But we do have a box office. It was 210,000 yen, or 210 million yen, which is roughly million in US dollars. So back then, that's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, definitely not bad for 1964.
Absolutely.
No,
That definitely made its money.
Yeah.
Now that is that's basically, I think, from the first release in Japan. I don't believe that includes the
Global release.
overall, like, yeah, because they did
Yeah.
release this later on, I think in 65 in America.
Yeah, I think that's
and I'm-
September 23rd. Yeah, September 23rd, 65 was our release over here, which
yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, we're looking here for the yen for what was made over in Japan because that's where these films are made. And if they didn't make its money there, it wasn't making its money back, then that means it wasn't going to have another one made, plain and simple.
Yeah, because I got a lot of that information from Wikizilla, and they have all that budget and all that fancy jazz stuff. And they basically compiled everything from the American release, the Japanese release, the Japanese re-release in the 70s, and they also included like sales, like VHS and home video sales. So it's not really, I kind of had to like pick it apart.
Hey, you're the one crunching all these numbers for us here, which, hey, by the way, thank you because you're doing a lot getting those done, and that's why you're the mastermind wizard for this.
Yeah.
So,
it's probably, it might not be accurate, but it's pretty close.
hey, it's solid. As long as it's a solid number that we got pretty close to, I'd say we hit our mark.
Yeah.
So now that we got our budget, we got everything wrapped. It is time for the kaiju rating of this, boys. This one is a bit of a banger, and we got some different opinions here. Well, I think it's a general consensus. We all think it's pretty great. So, Cam, let me know, out of 10, what we looking like?
I'm gonna have to go with
don't sugarcoat it. It can be what it is.
I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10. I'm gonna go with 7 out of 10. It's not that it's a bad film. It's the effects are a bit hit or miss here and there. Then there's the human part, which is not really, that kind of takes you away from things. It would be different if that was its own standalone thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you intertwine it with Godzilla action, it kind of slows the Godzilla action.
I agree. I'm gonna hit it with the same rating as you on this one, man. I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna hit this with a 7 myself. I think it was, nothing groundbreaking. Gave us a lot of firsts. It introduced us a new monster. Gave us Godzilla's big bad. This is his debut. But I think it kind of was a little bit hindered by the human aspect of it, and it kind of dragged things a little bit longer than probably what it should have. So, last but not least, Matt, give me your opinion here, man. What we got?
All right, so I'm shooting a little bit higher than you guys. I'm giving it a 9 because I enjoyed the bit of human drama that was in it. I thought it added a nice little spice to it. It did kind of feel like filler at some points though, which I can understand. The only reason I'm not giving it a 10, because I really want to give this one a 10, but the only reason I don't want to give it a 10 is Godzilla looks so horrible. Godzilla looked rough. Mothra could have looked better as a larva, not gonna lie. She looked grotesque, which makes sense, but like, I don't know. I feel like she could have looked a lot better.
As I said, she looks like an old automotive repair shop couch.
That's what I'm saying. Like, she looked rough. Like all the monsters except for Ghidorah looked just so rough, and Ghidorah looked amazing.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm gonna shoot it at that 9 and give it that high rating compared to your guys, I really enjoyed the fight scenes in this. Like, it brought out what I imagined whenever Cameron was first like, bro, we should watch the first Godzilla. Like, I was like, all right, I'm expecting some badass fight scenes and shit, ignoring the time that it was made and stuff. This made me just, it kind of reached out to me and was like, this is the fighting that you were looking for. This is what you have been preparing for this entire time. This is the type of shit that led into fight scenes like Pacific Rim happening, Yeah. And I thought it was really good.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad we got a good variety of viewpoints around on this film, and I think it deserves it. But I think that's going to be a nice little bow tie on Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. And now it is time, people, for the moment you've been waiting for. This is the comic portion.
One more break, though. One more.
You're right. You're
We
right.
gotta plug the merch, bro. What are you doing?
I can't help it. I'm
show
so
off the cup.
excited.
Cameron,
So
show
excited
off
for
the
the
cup.
banner.
You got it right there, bro.
Show it off.
Show it off, man. Check
There
out
it
that
is,
merch.
man.
Check out that
From
merch. For
retro
our audio
merch, from
listeners,
retro Dewback Discussion Network merch.
absolutely.
We had everything from masks, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts,
Ooh.
cups, magnets, stickers, everything that you fucking want.
My man's
We got
vibing with it. Preach it, brother. Preach it.
Bro, tone it down, man. I'm getting excited over here. But on a real note, guys, head over to projectlouder.net. Go down to the merch tab, TeePublic. Check it out. Get your comics and kaiju merch. Right now, we got the Gimme the Sauce, and we are providing the sauce for you. But the moment you've all been waiting for,
Actually,
the comic segment.
We have one more. One more.
Yes,
one more.
yes, I know.
Why?
I would like to shout out Symbiote Collectibles. It's a local nerd shop. I'm just gonna call it. They have everything from comic books, vintage toys, imported Japanese toys, original Transformer toys, original Star Trek, 60s, 70s, 80s, all different eras. They have everything that you could imagine from like that you would want as a nerdy item. They have it. They were
do they have
nice.
the items that you're looking for? The life-size Mothra sex doll.
Sadly, they do not.
It's got to be imported.
Sadly, they do not.
It's got to be imported. All right.
But Kim, we gotta ask, man. Where's this at? What
Yeah,
local
where's it
place?
at, bro?
Where's it at, man?
You just said we'd provide
right.
the sauce, bro.
Hold on. Hold your horses. It is down here over in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Right here on Penn Avenue. They have a lot of good shit. Please check them out. They were very nice. They were very helpful, and because it was my first time being there in over 5 years. Super nice. And we may even in the future come down there and do some stuff in store. Who knows? Maybe get some actors.
Maybe me and Austin need to get some plane tickets, bro.
Yeah,
maybe we gotta go.
Maybe a comic and kaiju boy, everyone together showing.
Maybe a good old Q&A for any listeners.
Because they were very open to us, and they've said, "Please come down and record." So, maybe we'll have some famous actors or actresses coming from maybe like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Who knows?
That's what might happen.
Who knows?
Well, down into my bread and butter. Let's
get it.
We got the first part of the title, the comic book section. Today, all right, I did kind of pull a low one on you guys. I did do a Vision comic. Had to hop on the hype train for WandaVision just releasing a few days ago. I was like, you know what? I saw the moment. I was like, let's latch on. All right. So we did Vision Volume 1, Little Worse Than a Man. It released in June 29th, 2016, at least the complete Volume 1 that we read on Comixology.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was published by Marvel. It was 133 pages long. And now that I got the formalities out of the way.
Just a quick shout out to anybody that wants to get this. This comic, Matt recommended this to us. It is on sale right now. So I highly recommend pick this up before it goes back off a sale. It's $4 fucking for almost a 200-page omnibus.
That's nice coffee.
Everything. It's a very, very good price. It's a steal, man.
For $4 for a damn good read. Honestly, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Absolutely.
Snag that before it's off sale.
But don't leave us first. Come on, check us out. So this
come and get the review to go get the book.
Come and get the review and then go get it and then judge for yourself.
There will be spoilers in this, so
yeah. Spoiler warning if you want to go see it. If you want to read it first.
Relatively new.
Yes.
Yeah,
spoiler warning here and now. But I gotta admit, I'm not a huge Vision fan. I enjoyed the absolute shit out of this comic. It was amazing. It really follows in detail kind of like Vision's thought process as well as his family's thought process, which we'll get to in a moment. The story kind of starts out with Vision and his family moving to Washington, D.C. because Vision is working directly with the White House and the president. And he even makes like a joke about wanting to be put on the White House salary because the Avengers aren't paying all that great. I'm calling cap. I mean, Tony Stark leading it, you're not getting paid all that great. Anyway.
Got taxes, bro.
Taxes, I mean, I guess. But it follows the storyline. It kind of opens up where their neighbors are coming over to kind of give them housewarming gifts. Like, two of the neighbors show up and they bring like a batch of cookies, and they're arguing on the front doorsteps, saying, I don't really think these guys are like real. They're just robots, just they're kind of throwing in some derogatory terms towards Vision and his family for not being human. And it's kind of cool seeing them kind of banter back and forth about, well, do they even eat cookies? Like, did we just make this for no reason? These aren't even robots. Why are we over here? Like, what kind of formality is this if they're not even real people? And they kind of go and they have their interaction. It does show that the family actually scoops the cookies into the trash can. We get an awesome look at some of the artifacts in Vision's house, which is really nice. So if you pick it up, there's a lot of like lore behind these artifacts. If you want to dive deep into this, it's amazing.
Just a quick shout out. My favorite artifact was the Captain America lighter. Thought that was really dope.
Yes, dude, that was
dope.
so amazing. What
cool.
he's talking about was Captain America's lighter that he used in Normandy on like during World War II. And he gave it to Vision as kind of like a keepsake memoir type thing going on, And the comic, I mean, it kind of has like a slow drag to it at the beginning, because when you begin reading it, you kind of think that it's just going to be an everyday life of Vision and their or Vision and his family. And it follows his two kids, which are twins. I think it was Viv and Vic, right?
No, Viv and Vin.
It was Vin.
Yeah, Viv and Vin.
And his wife, Virginia, which, I mean, they kind of have like a weird thing going on because they're robots and
they like the letter V.
They're very logical. Like their thought process is very logical and by the numbers and not so emotional. But at the same time, their Vision's trying to preach acting more emotional and seeming more normal. And that's a very common theme throughout this, is Vision is trying so desperately for him and his family to just fit in, seem normal, and live the quote unquote like status quo life, And for instance, he sends his kids to school, even though they definitely don't need to go to high school. They are on whole other levels from everybody else on Earth, just single-handedly, like one at a time. They'd be way better. But he wants to fit in. Oh, you want to say something?
The one thing I don't mean to cut off your rant, but the one thing I did also wanted to cut into is the way they actively look. They could be whatever they want to be. They can look however they want to be, but they're all basically made in Vision's image and Vision's color schemes.
Mm-hmm.
When I just thought that was a very interesting thing to do, even though he's wanting them to look normal to fit in, he could have made that a reality.
See, I enjoy this because they do have the ability to change their appearance to seem like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the fact that they don't want to like kind of hide who they are, Like they want to show everybody that, yeah, we're synthezoids, but we're not like cold monsters or anything. We're robots. We're just like you, We go to school, we study, we work hard, we go through emotional processes just like the rest of the humans, And I kind of like that message.
I do think it's strange that they have these blank, expressionless eyes, and I'm like,
well,
why?
You got to think
That's
their
scary.
eyes. You got to think their eyes are like cameras, but there is like a little bit of like symbolism that goes in with like some of their facial expressions that go as the comic progresses. Because as you guys have known, since we've already read it, there's the sort of prophecy that Agatha figures out whenever she killed her cat and ate its stomach, where she's like figuring out that Vision is supposed to go off his hinges, and this is the setup for all of it and why he goes off his hinges and threatens to destroy the world type level, like madness. So I feel like there's a lot of symbolism in the way that the family kind of contorted their face at times. Like there were these facial expressions, especially in the mother, like after Grim Reaper attacked, where her mother would get these like facial expressions, or they would repeat the same word over and over and get like really angry or like break stuff, And I felt like there's really good symbolism behind that. And the artist did a great job showing the kind of scary vibe in their eyes.
This comic definitely portrays the fear of artificial intelligence and
much
it
so.
becoming sentient and self-aware.
It's very
And
reminiscent of
becoming people.
iRobot.
Yes, very reminiscent of that. And it's a very terrifying thought because
It really is.
every day we're getting closer and closer to artificial intelligence. And it's fucking terrifying to think that this is actually possible. This is
Fucking
not
looking
like
at you, Boston Dynamics. Calm the fuck down.
no, it's the honest to God like fear of, robots
Yeah.
becoming self-aware and they become, a threat.
Hmm.
It's terrifying to think about.
But
Shit, I've seen Terminator.
in this comics, it's not quite the unprovoked threat. As I mentioned before, Grim Reaper attacks them while Vision is out. He breaks through a wall, cutting Viv straight through the stomach with a scythe. And he absolutely murks like the family. Like they're all fighting against him. And you'd think with them being, vision level strength, vision level powers, vision level lasers, that they'd be able to put up more of a fight. But the like surprise of him attacking really got them, and Viv was immediately disabled at like the beginning of the fight. Vin got his arm cut, and he was like really shocked about it because you got to think Viv and Vin are very young, like they're portrayed as teenagers, but they're very young in creation, so they're not used to this kind of interaction. They're not used to this battle being engaged, so
They
their
lack combat
computer-
experience.
Exactly. They lack combat experience. So their computers just kind of seize and they're like, what do we do? Like, kind of like how humans feel shock. And in that moment, the mother like starts to express like raw motherly type emotions and just attacks Grim Reaper out of just pure malice and hatred instead of how cool and calculated they're supposed to be. And this single interaction between Grim Reaper attacking them, basically saying you're not real, you're stop pretending like you're one of us, you're not real. That type of interaction, it feels like the spark that ignites the flames for the rest of this story arc to accelerate.
It was definitely a crack in the facade. It really did.
It really was because
after this, you see the mother change, like her mood.
she changed drastically, dude.
Very
Changed
much so.
a lot after this.
And we could talk the whole episode about like the type of stuff that she just kind of transitioned into.
That's a whole mental road.
Yeah,
that we
dude.
could go down to that.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
lot
And
of-
it was
there's a lot of that.
and they did such a great job portraying it. But this was the first interaction where you see something really negative happen, because otherwise you just kind of see that, they're used to getting tossed these casual glances like, really? Or like the common like shit talkery of their neighbors and people at school and stuff like that. And it kind of continues. Vision gets back, of course he's wondering what happened. And the mother just kind of lies to him. She's like, Grim Reaper attacked. I retaliated, except she told a different version of it where she, cool and calculated, attacked him and he fled instead of her lashing out on him and killing him and burying him in the backyard. And this is the first time that you really see that they're willing to lie. And Vision, of course, believes her, and he's like, well, I understand, and they're starting to fix on Viv, and Vin is going back to school, and Vin is obviously tore up about it. Like when he's sitting at that lunch table, and all he's thinking about is his sister, and his sister's chemistry lab partner comes up, and he's like, hey, where's your sister? I need help with the schoolwork that we had planned. Like, I don't have any way to get a hold of her. Do you have a number? And he just kept repeating, she's ill, she's ill, she's ill. And the dude, starts talking shit, basically saying that he's, I forget the exact terms he said, but he was basically insulting him and saying that like he could pull the number out of his metallic ass and shit like that. And he just kind of lashes out and like crushes the apple in his hand. And then in his inner monologue, he's talking about how humans are just like computers, and he like picks the kid up by the throat and like goes into detail about the artery that he could just clamp on and it would just kill him, or as he called it, turn him off like a computer. And he just chokes him out until he passes out, drops him, and just walks out the school. And to me, I felt like that was a scene that was much needed, because it showed like them getting bullied at school. It showed that people weren't treating them like normal robots, plus the shock of what he just witnessed literally the day prior. It was crazy to see him just step change and attack a kid at school, whereas previously he just wanted to fit in and be normal and make friends. And I thought it was really cool. What do you guys think about these scenes?
It brought a lot of life to this character. Instead of them being this cool, calculated machine, like I said earlier, with the attack, it cracked the facade, and this is just showing more of those cracks starting to form, and more of the effects of what happened are starting to bleed through. You're starting to get more of an idea of what they're dealing with, in their day-to-day routine. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all lollipops and gumdrops. Things are bad, and they're getting worse by the day. And him doing what he did, it was just showing that he doesn't know how to compartmentalize that feeling or that emotion, because not only does he lack combat experience, he lacks life experience. You can't learn that. You have to go through that. And he's going through that. He doesn't know how to handle it. So instead of walking away or calming down and letting it go, he lashes out. And that's all he knows how to do at that time.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I do got to appreciate about this comic is the animators did a really good job, showing the different family members phasing through stuff. Like the art for when they phase through stuff, because it looks just normal, but the way that they phase through stuff, it just looks so cool when you're reading it on the panel. Like during the sex scene with Virginia and Vision, when she's just walking and she just phases the panties off, and they're going through partially through her ankle and stuff. And I just thought it was really cool how they just showed how often they kind of phase through things instead
casually of use their power.
Yeah, they just casually, instead of opening a door, they just phase through the door. So
there's a lot of psychoanalyzing in this story. There's a lot of psychological.
There really is. It kind of brings me back to when we reviewed Parallel, like just the amount of like deep psychology is in this.
It's not like they just suddenly snap. This is a gradual like breakdown of their psyche, and it's
just a big heads up to our listeners real quick. If you're looking for something with a lot of action in it, this is not. This is a slow burn to a story arc that will have a lot of action into it. This is all set up. But continue, Cameron.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, over time you see shit happens to the Vision family, and you see this affect them emotionally, which is weird because they're robots, yet they still have some sort of feeling or emotion. Because I think at some point in the comic, him and Iron Man, they're trying to bring back Viv, and
that's a very good scene.
And Tony says, "Hey, you might want to turn off your pain sensors." And I was like, he has that? He can just turn that shit off?
He can just turn it off whenever he wanted to.
Yeah,
but he
so
didn't.
Which is really cool to find out, knowing that in any of Vision's fights, he could have just turned off his pain sensors and just fucking destroyed whatever. So you see him, he wants to be human. He wants his family to be human. He wants them to fit in.
Yeah.
But society isn't ready for that. Society can't seem to accept them, and they lash out because of it. And it's not like society is 100% rejecting them. It's that there's a few small things here and there sprinkled throughout the story that affects them mentally, and they just start to break down and lash out, and it's not really their fault, but it's not also,
they didn't do too much to really stop it either when they could have.
Yeah, it's not really the Vision's fault, but yet at the same time, it's not any specific person's fault. Sure, I guess you could say that the Grim Reaper basically was the catalyst to launch this into a downward spiral.
Oh, definitely.
But it's just being through daily life that affects them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's anything totally dramatic. They have a, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a specific way of going about it. It's very illogical to them. They want everything to be logical. They want everything to be kind of like a computer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They want a system for everything, and they expect it to go by that system. And when it doesn't go by that system, they try to bypass that, and that causes whomever to get angry and lash out at them, and then that causes them to lash out back. So it's kind of like an endless cycle where they themselves aren't capable of fitting in because it's just them.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
absolutely, man.
No, that's a good take. It really is.
Don't
Like,
dive really deep into there.
No, that was a good dive. That was a good take, man, for sure.
Absolutely. Speaking of, we've kind of, given the full synopsis of what's kind of going on. This is all just set up to the prophecy that Agatha figured out, where Vision is going to go corrupt and, threaten to basically destroy the world in madness. Let's kind of dive into who our favorite characters were real quick before we get to a favorite panel. Austin, who is your favorite character, man?
I'm going to be honest with you, Virginia. Seeing that crack of her facade and watching that spiral was a lot of change in a very short time span. And I mean, honestly, Vision's the main character here, but his family is also in charge. They're also front and center, and we're learning about them. And Virginia's kind of almost psychotic descent, like after she cracked and she took out Grim Reaper the way she did, it's like ever since then, it's like she kind of has no bars left holding her back. She's more free of that constraint of I need to fit. But she's like, I can still fit and do what I want if I don't show it.
I could definitely understand that. To further elaborate on that, guys, in the comic, whenever she's saying that she's fine and she's saying she's doing great, if you pay attention to the panels, you can see in the background the house is in shambles. She's destroyed the tables, she's punched walls, she's breaking basically the foundations of this home, but she's still trying to put on the facade. She's still trying to maintain the facade of everything is fine, everything is good, we're a happy family.
Yeah, that also, like, shout out to that poor fucking dog.
Hold up. So I'm gonna touch on the dog here in a moment, all right? Because that has to do with my favorite panel, but we'll get to that in a moment. My favorite character was honestly the kid that bullied Vin, or like, not really. He didn't try to bully him at first, but he ended up bullying him and then got choked out. I liked his character because for the brief time that we saw him, he went through kind of this huge leap in character development. So what I really think happened was he had a crush on her. He had a crush on Viv. And they worked together in chemistry lab and they were partners, and he was worried that she was gone, and he was trying to get her number from her brother so he could get in contact with her and figure it out. And, ended up taking it too far, and then Vin attacked him. But then in the next scene, when Viv comes back to school, we see that they have that dialogue where he comes up to her and he was like, "Hey, I didn't mean anything." Like, he was like, it just escalated too far. Like, I'm not mad at your brother. I hope he's not mad at me, type thing. And he's like, I would really like it if we kept in contact because you're really cool. And like, he's just talking to her. And, it goes in her point of view where she's like, yeah, she kind of keeps this memory forever because it was the first time anybody had ever called her cool. It was the first time anybody like genuinely went out of their way to talk to her in school other than, wow, you're weird,
She finally got positive feedback and positive reinforcement.
Yeah. And because of that, I really liked that guy because it was very big character development. And I hope that memory plays a bigger role down the road in this story arc. I haven't read this whole story arc yet, but I hope it plays a bigger role down the road. But Cameron, what was your favorite character, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with. See, I originally was gonna choose Virginia, but I really like the emotional process that Viv goes through, because she is basically I guess, would be the love side of things. She is very down to earth, very peaceful. She doesn't really lash out. She never lashes out at anybody. And when that kid tells her that she's cool, she, as you said, remembers that scene and she plays it over and over in her mind. And then when he dies, she basically breaks down because she really liked this guy. And she takes the page that has his face in the yearbook, takes it out, and she keeps it. And she quotes his yearbook quote to to her family when they were having this huge argument.
Yeah.
And I think she's the only one. Well, Virginia does cry a bit, but Viv has a full breakdown, and she cries and she suffers. She is the one that's suffering throughout this comic.
Yeah,
out of the entire family.
She seems a lot more like the heart of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like to see a lot. I think she is going to be in other volumes. She's going to be the good. She's going to be the one that's going to, I think, stop things from getting out of control.
I could definitely understand that. I mean, I've read comics that take place in different points in time in the Marvel universe, and Viv is very powerful from what I've seen. But
yeah, she's going to be the peacekeeper.
Yeah, but most of the comics I've read with her in, she's been kind of a side character, so I'm pretty sure they've even nerfed her.
I kind of hope that's not how it's going to be.
Hey, hopefully.
But we'll just have to read the other issues now, won't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. So now that we got the favorite character out of the way, I kind of want to lead into the favorite panel. Now, my favorite panel was, after the dog found Grim Reaper's body and the dog dies getting electrocuted. When Vision was just cool and collective with the apron on, and he had the bone saw, and he was cutting the skull of the dog and taking out the brain. That panel, I thought, the first time I saw that panel, the only thing I could think of was Dexter, because the camera angle that they showed him, they didn't show that it was the dog. So it could have been anybody at that point. It could have been Grim Reaper that he was cutting up.
Subverting expectations kind of thing.
Yeah, and he was just sawing in, and it shows the blood all over his shirt, all over the apron. Even I think there's even blood that got on his face, and it was it was very reminiscent of Dexter, because there were a lot of scenes in Dexter where there's a lot of spray from the blood coming into his face and on his apron that he wore. But to further elaborate on this panel, he takes the dog's brain out and creates a synthezoid version of the dog. And to me, whenever I saw the synthezoid version of the dog, my fucking heart dropped, because I immediately thought of Blade Runner, which I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that talks about humans being replaced by robots. Well, if he just took the dog's brain out, analyzed the dog's brain, and what's to stop him from taking the neighbor's brain out, analyzing the neighbor's brain, and it's just
upgrades, people upgrades.
Upgrades, But to me, that was just such a scary scene, even though it was meant to be a lighthearted scene, because he's presenting his family with a dog as a reward for all the emotional trauma and troubles that they've gone through. It was really, to me, it was a very terrifying scene, because if he knows how to just do this, then what is really stopping him from just doing it,
To Vision, what he's doing is an act of mercy. He is saving that dog from death, because the dog's body is dead after that. The shot killed the animal. So he's like, oh, I'm going to mercifully take this dog's brain and give him a new body, give him a new life. But in reality, to us, it's like, what's stopping him from doing that to anyone?
Exactly.
That's a terrifying thing.
And to me, that's why that panel really stuck out the most, just because of how terrifying it really was.
That's understandable.
I mean, it really was, man. What about you, Austin? What was your favorite panel?
I'm going to be honest. My favorite panel was Grim Reaper's attack. That really caught me out of left field. To me, I judge my favorite panel on how I react to it while I'm reading it. And if I'm reading a comic and I'm flipping through and I see something that physically gets a facial reaction out of me, whether it be a raising an eyebrow or like a damn or anything, then to me that is 100% going to be my favorite. Now, trust me, the dog thing, that got me. It did. But Grim Reaper just coming out of bumfuck nowhere and just straight up,
dude, breaking through a wall,
just straight up shanking Viv and nearly cutting her in half. Like, I just was completely thrown away by that because I'm sitting here like, oh, I mean, they're just having a normal conversation in the kitchen. Fucking Kool-Aid Man of Death comes through the wall, stabs my daughter in the gut, and then Virginia, instead of just like, I like you cut, G, knocks this dude, and he's fucking dead. I was not ready for it.
No, dude,
I wasn't ready for all of that at one time, and it was shocking.
Definitely a very fast-paced, short battle.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like what you said about this being a slow burn. The action that's in it, to me, I feel is good quality action. Granted, it might not be in high quantities, but the way it alters the stories and the way it affects the storyline and the way it affects the plot, it was quality of what was needed, and I really enjoyed it. It was short, sweet, to the point, and enough of a shock factor to kind of be like these ultimate, phasing unstoppable beings are not so unstoppable as they think they may be.
Oh, exactly. It definitely was a culture shock to them, kind of telling them that, hey, just because you can phase through literally anything, it was basically like phase through this bitch, like
essentially. But
so
I mean,
yes. So I was gonna go with the whole fight scene with Grim Reaper.
It's good.
It's a good.
That didn't give me an audible reaction. I had an audible reaction at the very last panel.
Yeah, the last panel was good.
It
was very good.
I flipped the page and I went, "Oh my fucking god!" of Agatha revealing what's going to happen to Vision to the entire Avengers team blew my fucking mind because I gotta check out the next series
because it really tells you just the scale of what this story arc is going to encompass. I mean, you see Spider-Man in the background, you see Iron Man headlining this, you see Thor, you see all these main Avengers being warned about Vision, and you're like, oh, hold up.
This might be a bit of a problem.
This is about to be a superhero mash, and I'm excited.
It was so fucking cool. It was
so
cool.
No, exactly, man. Like I said, it's just the scale of things. It really puts it into perspective just how large scale Vision would be against.
And correct me if I'm wrong. The narration throughout the story, that's Agatha, correct? The red boxes, the red text boxes. I believe that's Agatha.
Is it red text boxes or purple?
They're
purple. like a maroon or a crimson.
It's purple. Those are Agatha.
Yeah. I was going to say I was fairly certain I was reading that correctly because I was reading that through Agatha's narration. So I was hoping I was reading that right. So
if it would have been one of the Vision family, it would have been a yellow text,
or green or something like that. Because Vision spoke in like a yellowish green text when it was like through his mental narration. It's okay. So glad we got that established.
Yeah. That was a big twist at the end there.
Oh, it definitely
was. Blown away by that, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta check out these next couple of issues now.
So let's get into the fucking rating of this comic book. Now I'm gonna save my rating for last because I'm curious as to what your guys' ratings are. Austin, go ahead and take it away with the rating, bro.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, just like what me and Cameron both said at the beginning. Not Vision fans. As a character, I think Vision's fine. I think he's a good character. He's a great design, all that other stuff. But he was just never my personal cup of tea growing up and getting into comics. I never really collected any of his comic issues. So for me, this was kind of like, I know about Vision. I know how he was created. I know his powers. I know what he looks like, yada, yada, yada. I got that. I did my research and I've always known what it was. But I've never read any of his stories. This was my first touch of Vision, my first look into Vision.
Oh,
And
you had to do the pun, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to. Wouldn't you fucking sue me?
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
couldn't help but to go into this with low expectations because he's not my personal choice for a superhero. So I brought in low expectations to just kind of be like, if it sucks, then oh well. I'm not wasting my time. This went above that expectation by a good bit because I really, honestly, I was reading it. I stopped and had some dinner and came back and read the rest of it. And I'm glad I stopped myself because I was getting into like just getting a little mundane, getting a little slow after, the whole thing with Grim Reaper attacking. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then next thing you know, this starts picking up. It starts getting interesting. Things start happening.
Hold up. In the comment section.
Here,
Hold up, guys.
Hold the fucking phone.
Guys, in the comment section, someone's got a hot take for us. Alexander, I'm not going to attempt that last name. Doomsday Clock is fucking garbage and no one should read it or like it. All right, hold up. Hold up. Now he's saying Doomsday Clock shouldn't be canon. For one, this is Marvel. We're talking Marvel here. This is DC, bud. For two, how you gonna shit on Dr. Manhattan like that, bro? Doomsday Clock was one of the Watchmen's best story arcs.
Let me ask you this, Alexander. Who in the Watchmen hurt you?
Who was it?
Did the comedian try to rape you like he did,
What the fuck?
I don't know about the movie, so I don't have any say in this conversation.
Now look.
Now he's saying
Marvel
sucks. So we just found a troll.
Marvel sucks.
So I do think the comedian did touch him in his no square. Sorry, Alexander.
You hate Marvel, but then you hate DC?
Oh, Jeff Johns hurt me. Okay, but like...
Listen, so you don't like Marvel.
What about Flashpoint? What about Flashpoint?
You don't like Marvel. You're apparently dicking on, DC. So explain to me what do you like? What is your taste? What is your forte? Is it Dark Horse? If so, I mean, hey, good choice.
I mean, yeah, if you like Dark Horse, you claim you're not a troll. Go ahead, tell us. What is your golden
let the man speak
comic?
So people have their preferences. Some people like DC, some people like Marvel. It's been a rival thing since they were born.
Their exception, yeah.
Since their inception. Some people like the new DC's nitty-gritty, dark version. Some people like the lighthearted DC from like back in the 50s and 60s.
See, now I'm not a huge fan of the HBO Watchmen. I
couldn't get into it.
I watched 2 episodes.
I haven't seen it, so
he is saying Dark Horse is pretty good. So,
Dark Horse is pretty good. I mean, dude, if you ever get a chance to read some of their Alien and Predator shit, it's honestly really dope. Their comics are awesome, and they did a fantastic job on Star Wars.
Oh, dude, they blew the water out. But we'll get on that stuff on another time. So, Cameron, what was your rating for this comic, man?
I'm gonna go with an 8. I'm gonna go with an 8. 8 out of 10 because the story is very, very good. It's very good, but for a lot of people that are wanting action, they're not gonna get it. Also, the story is very slow. If you can sit through that and stomach that, you will find a very, very good comic. Probably one of the best comics out there. Because I love a lot of the psychological breakdowns and analyzing all that stuff. I really enjoy like analyzing that stuff. But being as it's slow and not a lot of action, it's going to turn a lot of people away. But in the end, it's a great story. And if you can sit through a slow story like this, I think as you guys said, a slow burn, you will really enjoy this comic.
Like I said, first introduction to Vision for you and me both. And I mean, in all honesty, It's not a bad introduction to a character, especially for you and me. We can both contest our first introduction, and it's not bad. It was a good taste.
Well, first introduction in comic form. I mean, I saw him in Age of Ultron, which I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Good guy robot, yeah. But it's cool to see a darker side. And
show
I
how
really
how bad he
enjoyed-
really can be if he gets let out of
I
control.
really enjoyed that.
Real quick before I give my rating, I'm reading Alexander's comments right
Here
now.
we go again.
I'm pinning one on here. It says Marvel
again.
ruined comics and movies. That is why I hate them.
And
Now,
DC has it.
Now,
you gotta explain a little bit better.
I'm more of a DC boy, as you can see. As you can see, I've got my Wonder Woman 84. I've got my Batman. I'm more of a DC guy. But I have always loved Marvel Comics. I don't feel like they've ruined their comics. I do feel like the MCU is too milked, in my opinion. And I'm not really a big fan of the Marvel animation that we've seen so far. So as far as that's going, I can understand that.
Now, that comment you just said right there, Alexander. I can agree with that.
Yeah,
superheroes should be dark and disturbing and not political and realistic. I respect that opinion.
Me,
Honestly, keep politics out of comics. It's just that simple.
Yeah. It's the same principle with like TV shows. TV shows and video games and comics and things along those natures. Those are our escape from reality. We shouldn't. I do not want to read a comic of what gender role Spider-Man wants to be. I don't give a shit. That's not what I read this comic for.
Spider-Man to be bisexual in the new movie. No, I don't give a shit. He shouldn't have to do that. I don't give a fuck.
What I care about seeing is Peter Parker. I care about a character that has trials and tribulations and issues that I experience. Like, I battle depression. Spider-Man battles depression and failure and rising above it and learning and growing and being a better person. And then if he moves forward and he teaches Miles, that is what it can go into. But instead, Miles is handed all of his abilities. He's handed his suit. He's handed his life. He's handed everything. And he doesn't earn it like Peter does. Peter goes through all of it.
This next comment from Alexander, I do agree with. Comics are subjective. Like, for me, listen, I think Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. He just said trash.
Bro, he just said Spider-Man's trash. Oh my god.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Fair.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Just like you say, comics are subjective, just like opinions are subjective.
That's
just
totally
like
true, man. That's totally true. Everybody has their own opinions. Some people like dark, gritty, very realistic, and political comics, like you. And then there's other people that really like very fantasy, because what you can do with what the power of comics have is you are able to show and tell a story about something that could not happen in real life. And a lot of people want that super flashy, they want Spider-Man saving your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man swinging throughout New York City and saving people from like small robberies and stuff like that. Or you want to see him fight the Green Goblin and Doc Ock and all these cool characters.
Man, he's really riding this Doomsday Clock train. I mean, I'm just saying, man, we haven't even mentioned Doomsday Clock period until you brought it up.
Let's just wrap up this little segment here with just saying that comics can be a form of something based in reality and helping you to cope with things going on around you, or it can be a sense of escapism that can help you escape that reality and be able to still project yourself in that, but also escape the problems you have around you.
It's like film.
Just like a film.
There's a lot of people that really like political films that are based on a true story or something that could happen. Or there's people like me that like to see a giant fucking 50-meter monster destroy town. I like that shit.
Bingo.
Absolutely. But back to our rating, though. because we've kind of dove deep into this one. Back to our rating, though. Austin, did you give your rating?
8 out of 10. I'm
8 out of
with
10?
Yeah, I'm with Cam on this
Are you
one.
with Cameron on that 8 out of 10? So for this comic, I really am. I can't help but check out the comment section, okay? Because this guy's really riding the fucking Doomsday Clock train. But anyway, my rating on this comic, it's a solid 9. If you're deep into comics and you like a lot of lore, a lot of buildup, a lot of less spotlighted like characters, like less appreciated characters getting some just straight up attention, this is for you. Like I said, when you first get into the inside of Vision's house, it breaks down all of the artifacts that he's collected and that has been given to him, like, as we said, Captain America's lighter. It's just a lot of lore and story building that's going to launch this entire arc past what we've read so far. So for me, like I said, a 9 out of 10. Like, not the best comic book ever, but like it's a solid read, especially if you're deep into the comics.
For sure.
So, yeah, I agree. Honestly, boys, I gotta say, this was a good one. It had a lot of good points. I think we dove into both of our segments in very good light on both sides. Got to give a shout out. Matt, you did a banger on picking this comic. Like I said, me and Cameron both have not been exposed to Vision at all up until this point. So it was definitely a nice little treat for both of us to kind of get a chance to be exposed to this for the very first time. And then, Cam, I got to give it to you, man. Ghidorah, three-headed monster. It's a classic, good choice, a good introduction to someone we're going to see a lot more in the future. So overall, a wonderful, wonderful episode.
I'm not going to lie. I am really tempted to just have us review Doomsday Clock just to score in this fucking troll.
Well, let's take a look at the list. Let's take a look at the list, and maybe
this could be a talk for another time.
Yeah.
But as always, Comics and Kaiju ends with a shot of tequila.
Fuck yeah.